Hey guys, just wanted to take a moment to thank you for listening to SiDEBAR Forever. If you like the show, please subscribe to us at sidebarforever.com, as well as share episodes of the podcast on your social media. That way, new listeners can find us as well. Oliver Stone's Platoon is the classic 1986 Vietnam War movie that brought home the truest reality of the conflict ever committed to film. Written and directed by Stone and starring Charlie Sheen, Willem Dafoe, and Tom Berenger, the film is lauded for its accuracy in portraying not just violent firefights in harsh jungles, but the brutality against the Vietnamese people, as well as the loss of innocence amongst young soldiers. The film's story is semi-autobiographical in that writer-director Oliver Stone enlisted in the Army in 1967 and requested combat duty in Vietnam. Platoon won 4 Academy Awards in 1987, including Best Picture as well as Best Director for Stone. The film has also inspired countless homages and parodies since its release. I'm Agent Johnson, and Dwight and Swain are with me today as we discuss and celebrate the 35th anniversary of Oliver Stone's Platoon.
In 1967, Oliver Stone was a combat infantryman in Vietnam. He was wounded twice and received a medal for gallantry in action. 10 years later, he was a Hollywood screenwriter and the winner of an Oscar. But even after many successes, Stone still had another story to tell. A movie that grew out of his own experience. Stone has come a long way from Vietnam, but he has not left it behind.
Take the pain. Take the pain.
I got a bad feeling on this one, all right?
Watch out! Rocket!
People say I'm the life of the party, 'cause I tell a joke or two. Loud and hearty, deep inside I'm blue. So take a good look at my face. You'll see my smile looks out of place. If you look closer, it's easy to trace the tracks of my tears.
The first real casualty of war is innocence. The first real movie about the war in Vietnam is Platoon.
So fellas, I was rereading a memoir by Oliver Stone last week or earlier this week when I finished it, called Chasing the Light. It came out in late 2020. And in it, the culmination of the book is his life and career right up until the making of Platoon and it winning the Academy Awards and all of that, right?
Right.
And so when I finished it, I sat back and thought about it. I said, 86, 2021, it's the 35th anniversary of Platoon itself.
Nice.
So with that, I thought, and also since Swain had suggested, a little while ago that we should maybe do a episode dedicated to Vietnam War movies and that whole genre. And I thought, well, maybe that'd be a good time. So, Swain suggested, well, why don't we tackle Platoon itself? And then we'll do a 2-parter. The additional part would be on Vietnam movies as a genre, and we'll get specific to those movies. But for this episode here, I want to talk about Platoon, the classic 1986 Vietnam movie, starring Charlie Sheen, Tom Berenger, Willem Dafoe, and a cast of up-and-coming talent such as Forrest Whitaker, Kevin Dillon, Keith David, John C. McGinley, and Johnny Depp. Directed and written by Oliver Stone, and it won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture for 1986, Best Director for Stone, and also for sound and editing. And it became a cultural phenomenon like none other, in many, many ways, and it finally brought to light, in the truest sense, according to many veterans who saw the movie, that's the closest on film that Hollywood has gotten to really expressing what it felt like to be there in Vietnam.
I believe it.
And, and veterans were saying, the lights would come up, and it was reported that veterans would still be sitting there 20 minutes afterwards crying and in tears, trying to process this. I'd even read an anecdote that some of the veterans were actually like ducking, from hearing like the shots in the movie because it was taking them back, to that time and everything. So it definitely, crossed all sorts of strata, you know what I'm saying? And even in 2019, it was selected by the Library of Congress for the National Film Registry as being, quote, culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant.
Nice. So
this is a movie on so many levels that is definitely not just classic, but in the best sense, in the best war movies, it's anti-war. Even with all of its violence and so forth.
Sure.
It definitely is anti-war. And it's the first Hollywood movie about Vietnam that was actually written and directed by an actual veteran, with Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
So with that, let's start here. For you guys, when was the first time that you saw Platoon? And also, being I was just a young guy, I was 6 at the time it came out. You guys were a bit older than me. Were you guys aware of like the not the hoopla, but the cultural, impact that Platoon was having around that time? Because I do remember it being featured on like, certain news channels and stuff like Good Morning America. I do remember that much at the time of release. So what about you guys?
I think I think the first time I became aware of it, and oddly enough, this is 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And I probably was more aware of people referencing it on variety shows. And, the movie came out in 86, and there have been countless other movies that have been homages to it, but then there were also parodies to Platoon. And so, you see on variety shows, people would make references to it. People would throw out that Barnes quote, "Well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads,"
Yeah, Jay Moore. There you go.
Things like that. So even though we were, way ahead of, decades ahead of memes and things going viral and things becoming popular in another place, I was probably aware of it that way, and then probably saw the movie a few years after that. So I was probably in my 20s when I finally got a chance to see it, and I'm pretty sure I saw it on VHS.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I saw it on VHS. As a matter of fact, I would say this most recent viewing yesterday was probably only the second time I've ever seen it in its totality.
Oh wow! Okay.
From the first frame to the last frame, and so that's probably where I stand with it.
Yeah, for me, of course, I don't know, maybe 16 then, I think, at the time, and I didn't really. It wasn't on my radar. I saw all the individualized hoopla and things of that nature, but I found war movies in particular, like real war movies. Oh, I can watch fictional Star Wars movies all day. But I found that the absence of a really truly good versus evil situation, except for the two antagonists, which are each other's protagonists, of Barnes and Elias. Like I'm of the age now where I can truly appreciate the psychodrama that was going on along in it, as well as the war as a backdrop for what was going on. It seemed to me like it was just a matter of the more you stayed over there, and I heard this often from veterans in my family, but the more you stayed over there, the more you sunk deeper into it, the more you became desensitized to what was going on. You could see that happening from Martin Sheen's character. Charlie Sheen is his son. Charlie Sheen's character, how he just descended into madness, and became a almost like a cowboy to some degree. Like he went in guns blazing. You know, when the final skirmish, final battle. And I was like, wow. I mean, how things have changed. You know, and I realized the tour was only. They said that at the beginning his tour was like 360 days, 300. And he was. I don't know how long he proceeded, during that time period to get to where he became. But I guess to answer your question sufficiently, it would be like Swain says. For me, I didn't see it when I was a kid. I do love it because I would see newspaper spreads, and it was like big black and white that helmet with the dog tags hanging from it, or Elias and his like Jesus Messianic fall, and that was incredible, man. That in of itself was like it kind of I knew something I should see, but I knew. Then my family, being that one of my uncles in particular was a paratrooper in Vietnam, and it kind of screwed him up. So I really was interested in reliving that whole thing. That's where I stand as far as first viewing of it goes. Now, like I said before we started, I had seen it on TNT, and I didn't watch it in its entirety because it looked extremely like sanitized, and I have very little tolerance even then for commercials. So I probably lost interest because there was no pew pew pew, no Star Wars, no spaceships, no damsel, no damsel in distress, but no immediate eye candy to attach on to. So yeah, but I appreciate it more now as an adult than ever.
Well, for myself, I recalled it not obviously at the time of release because, as I mentioned, I was a young dude then at 6. But I was even then starting to be interested in like military stuff, and I think it had to do with like the climate of the time too, just how the country itself was very, very jingoistic, very militaristic. You know what I'm saying? So I was already as a kid, really digging into that stuff. But I saw a bit of the movie when I was like 8 or 9. And it was like 9 o'clock as the Sunday night ABC movie. Okay. And 9 o'clock, it's about time to go to bed.
Right.
So my dad is kind of like, no, you gotta go. You gotta go to bed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But even in bed, I would hear from the living room, doom, doo doo doom, doo doo, doo doo. You know, that type of stuff. I'm like, oh man, dang, yo, come on, man.
Light them up.
Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole!
Right? Exactly. So I'm hearing all that. I'm like, man, what am I missing? Come on, man.
Yeah. And
so it really wasn't until I was a teenager, and like you, Swizz, I had gotten a copy on VHS. You know what I'm saying? As a teenager, and this is when I was maybe about 16, and I was like, man, because by then I was fully aware of like the history of the war and other wars, and fully immersed in like war movies and all that stuff. So it just really, really hit me, man. Really hit me. Just from the detail of the performances, of the actual costuming, like it just seemed like there was such a veracity to it that it was just undeniable. And you could sense it. You could feel it. It was palpable. You know what I'm saying? So since then, I've seen it innumerable times. All the quotes you can name, all the scenes, I know them by heart, but it never fails after each viewing to hit me the same exact way. Every single time. Every single time.
It's very gritty, man. I mean, it's like you feel like you're dropped right into the heart of the Viet Cong War, like, and you just see like you're right there in the middle of it, dude. It's like one of the very first scenes I recall is like when they're running through the tall bush and trying to cut the bush down with the knives, and how close the camera was up on it, and how you see it, they're like just trying to fight their way through it, and the red ants eating at Sheen's on his neck and things like that, and how you can just stumble upon things like that in a jungle situation that, these these creatures are living there too, and you're at a total disadvantage because you come from a place that, that pretty much trims their verge everywhere you go, but going in there, man, it's like going into a freaking jungle movie, dude. It was hardcore terrain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And, Stone, he intended it that way. Mm-hmm. He had actually started a screenplay called Break soon after he arrived back home in 1969, which is notable for not only being kind of a precursor to Platoon, but it was also a script that he had sent to Jim Morrison. Mm. And he had actually intended for Jim Morrison to take a look at and hopefully star in.
Oh, yeah?
But yeah. And supposedly it was actually in the room where Jim Morrison died. And that's not just something that was just for the Doors movie. Like, wow. That's true.
Really?
But,
okay.
Right, exactly. But when he didn't get a response back, he reworked it and started bringing in other things, and he came up with a script later called The Platoon.
Okay.
About 1976. And he started shopping that around, and it was starting to get some traction out there in Hollywood. Like, people were reading this and just saying, this is a very good script, but the climate's not right now for us to make this, But you started having other movies coming out around that time, like Coming Home in 78, The Deer Hunter also in 78, The Boys and Company C also in 78, Go Tell the Spartans also in 78. So around that time, you started having Vietnam movies being made, but when you take a look at them, none of them possessed like the true aspect of, veracity that Oliver Stone's script had,
right.
So eventually it did get made. He was able to get it financed, actually low budget. I think it just cost $6 million to make and ended up grossing well over $100 million, well over that.
Wow.
I was just going to throw in real quickly from my reading, like when Stone initially started shopping The Platoon, people were like, I don't know, Vietnam movie, because everybody was sensitive, and there had been tons of protests, which was part of what brought the war to an end, because the American people really were, starting to lose, they were losing their support for the effort, and then Deer Hunter comes out, and Apocalypse Now comes out, and some of these other movies, and Deer Hunter and Apocalypse Now are considered big successes. So then the tone flipped, where it was like, the best Vietnam War movies have already been made. These movies have already been done. We don't want to retread, new territory. But it just goes to show that, here we are, Boys of Company C and, and Coming Home and all these other movies in the late 70s going into it. This is still considered the greatest piece of art as a totem to, the war and trying to exemplify the things that happen and trying to portray it realistically, but also, to add some art to the verisimilitude,
Totally. And, the other thing I was going to say, too, is just like, I think what would help the movie as well is it's almost helped by its low budget. You know what I'm saying? Almost like you're having to go shoot there in the Philippines, which, is the beginning of the similarities between it and Apocalypse Now.
Right.
Both were shot in the Philippines. Except Apocalypse Now had this huge budget, whereas Platoon did not. And it's also helped by the performance of the young cast, too. And the fact that Platoon also marked the first time that there was a quote-unquote training camp for the actors for these type of roles made there on site.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the actors were brought out, and some of the actors protested like, hey, wait a minute, I got to talk to my agent. Stone said he sent them right home. Okay. He said either you're in this. Yeah, he said either you're in this platoon or you're not.
So,
they took it very seriously.
Oh, you're too Pretty Boy Floyd for this role. You go home next.
Yeah, he said they had to send like 2 or 3 home.
Wow.
And they brought out, 2 or 3 alternates to fit into those roles.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And he said over the course of those 2 or 3 weeks in that training camp, the platoon started to come together. Like the relationships of the characters really started to coalesce, and the splits within the squad too. Right. Between Barnes's squad and kind of Elias's squad, the heads and the straights, you know what I mean?
Right.
And Stone was like, I think this might actually work. oh my God, I think this might actually work. And he said by the time they started shooting, like the first day of shooting is them trudging through the jungle, cutting down, the bamboo and everything, and going across the waterfall and climbing the hills. He said he had worked them to the point where they finally realistically and truly had that exhausted look, because Stone was like, for himself, to his experience, he said, you have to have that look like you haven't slept in a year. Right. That type of thing.
Yeah. To go along with that, man, they also, I think the consultant on that was a military guy named Dale Dye. And they were talking about like depriving them of sleep, only giving them so much food. When they'd be sleeping, they would pop blanks, over where they was, to keep them off kilter, and to have them have, like you said, that dog-eared, dog-tired, worn out, irritated, angry, frustrated, vibe that soldiers have, in that particular situation. But one of the things I think that's a real feat to this movie is the fact that, he had, probably a quarter of the budget that Apocalypse Now had. But at the same time, they shot this movie chronologically. So they didn't shoot everything in the village, and then shoot everything over here, and then shoot everything over there, and then shoot everything over here, and then piece it together. Like Adrian said, when they started that first shot where they're trudging through, that goes into the next scene, which goes into the next scene, which goes into the next scene. So there is an emotional arc for those actors too, by the time they get to the end of it. But when you hear about that, you think, oh, well, what's the big deal? That's very difficult to do, and it's very time consuming and more expensive. This might have been a $3 million movie if they hadn't shot it that way, because they shot it, I think, over like almost 2 months. But it would have been might have been a $3 million movie, and they might have shot it in way less time had they made best use of this location for a week, best use of this location for a week, and then just pieced it all together. But they didn't do that. So again, it's even more of a feat, to get this great film, considering what they had to work with, or what Stone had to work with.
Yeah, that's very interesting, man. Because I think you're right about that. I mean, for a person to have to shoot things out of sequence, they never get a chance to really get a sense of gravity for the character they're trying to build. So to keep the seam line, keep it seam line and going in the right direction. Once going consistent direction, definitely probably helps the veracity of the situation, and it helps them feel like they're really progressing. If they could picture in their mind, they could do a lot better portraying it on the screen. Yeah,
and that's exactly Stone's intent. He said, like, after each scene, depending on who was killed, he had, and there's a picture of his of his kill list in his in the book that I was mentioning earlier, where he's shown where he's crossed out the names. Like, he has the date of shooting that this person is gone, right? And so that way, it would be like the actors recounted in like a documentary. It's like you would see that person on the day of shooting, and if their character died, like, they were gone. You didn't see them at the hotel the next morning. Stone said, once you are killed on screen, you're gone. Wow. And so that way the remaining actors can kind of fill that loss and bring that to their portrayal on screen. Which I think is just like, you can see it, you can sense it. You know what I'm saying? And just on that tip, man, what did you guys think about the performances of the cast? I mean, your three principals, Sheen, Berenger, and Dafoe, as well as the rest of the really young cast, man.
I thought they're excellent, man. I mean, I saw them, even though I knew who they were because I seen them in like movies as they were older. I thought they were all very well invested in the roles they were trying to portray. I mean, this was Forrest Whitaker before his eyes started to totally get limp. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I know that's not exactly the political way of saying it. You know,
hey, man, don't blaspheme on the esteemed Forrest Whitaker, man.
I'm not Forrest Whitaker, man. I'm Forrest Whitaker, man. That's my man, man. That's my man, But you know what I'm saying? Like, it was interesting to see, like, in their younger personas and who they were as people, and Keith David in there, dude, and a bunch of other actors. Like, wow, and this is really good to see and interesting to see, and kind of warming too, because it's like there's always this thing in most films. It's like, okay, the black guy's got to go first, the black guy's got to die, and there was none of that in the situation. It wasn't like I didn't see like a significant effort being made to make those things a point of focus. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously during that time there was several like racial disharmony, and it was like the '60s.
Oh, of course.
So you heard that in the dialogue too. I mean, especially that the dude named Junior.
Hey, white boy, what you waiting for? That hole ain't gonna dig itself. Come on, boy, get your dick skin on that thing. Dig. You can get all day. Dig.
Junior was all about, no, man, look at the honkies over there. It's like, it's like, wow.
That rebel music.
Yeah, yo.
Yeah, we don't want no marijuana.
Right.
Oh man.
But I did find it I guess at any point there was a weird part, man. I don't quite understand. There was like either somebody was like urinating off the edge of the base, and some other dude went over there to check him out while he was urinating or something like that. Dude, what? Or you know what I'm talking about? Like there was a scene where
that was that was Elias. That was shot from a different angle. If you remember, like a few beats later, it's Johnny Depp's character talking to Elias.
Okay. It's like,
and Elias is saying something to him like whatever.
Can I do piss and pee, yo? I mean, what's up? No,
man, shit. Everybody there together, yo. I mean, you saw the dude like he's trying to eat his sea rash, and some dude dips his finger and is like, "Need more hot sauce," that type of thing.
Yeah, man.
Oh man, but you know what really worked for that, man?
What's that?
What did you guys think of like Charlie Sheen's narration? And again, this is another similarity to Apocalypse Now. Whereas his father Martin Sheen, his character had narration in that movie, and Sheen has it in this movie. And I thought there were a couple of bits of narration that were very, very strong, especially him talking about the grunts. Grunt can take it. They can take anything.
I guess I haven't always been sheltered and special. I just want to be anonymous, like everybody else. Do my share for my country. Live up to what Grandpa did in the first war and Dad did in the second. Well, here I am, anonymous all right, with guys nobody really cares about. They come from the end of the line, most of them. Small towns you never heard of. Pulaski, Tennessee, Brandon, Mississippi, Pork Bend, Utah, Wampum, Pennsylvania. 2 years high school's about it. Maybe if they're lucky, a job waiting for them back in a factory. But most of them got nothing. They're poor, they're the unwanted, yet they're fighting for our society and our freedom. It's weird, isn't it? At the bottom of the barrel, and they know it. Maybe that's why they call themselves grunts, because a grunt can take it, can take anything. They're the best I've ever seen, Grandma. The heart and soul.
Right.
They're the best I've ever seen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? From Port Bend, Utah. Pulaski, Tennessee. Just, oh man, like every time the rain's coming down, you just see like these guys really, they're like from the dregs of America, so to speak, but they're here. Well, you know what I'm saying?
To your point, all of them were except for him. He was a college boy. He chose to come.
Right.
So it's thing like in the beginning, he was talking to his grandma about how I want to stand up and do something for the family. I want to I want to find a purpose in life, and this is going to teach me to have a sense of purpose. And he gets there, and he's like, at the end, or close to the end, Keith David's character's talking to him, and he's like, you don't write letters to grandma anymore. Nobody to talk to, nobody to write to anymore. He's like, nah. It's like, damn, bro, they broke your spirit. You're like, you're no longer interested in being chronicling this shit. But you want to get out of this man's war as soon as possible. So it was interesting. It was interesting.
Man, what about you, Swiss?
Sheen. I thought Sheen did remind me of his dad in many places. Just seeing him, with this, this fresh face and the chalk of hair on his head, and walking around without his shirt on, like his dad kind of did for part of the time in Apocalypse Now.
That's true.
And then I didn't actually remember the voiceover until it started happening, and I was like, oh, this really is, kind of giving me, Martin Sheen vibes, as it relates to the two. But yeah, I thought that was great, and also the part that where he starts talking about, like kind of what he doesn't really say is that the military exploits the poorest and those who have the least amount of options. They really don't want the smartest. They really don't want the most skillful. They don't want people who are going to turn into, if they aren't already, individuals. They want people who are going to go in and be a cog or wheel in the machine and help the machine keep going. And even Barnes's character says that later on, you want to be an individual, but when you become an individual, guess what? The machine breaks down.
Mm-hmm. And when the machine breaks down, we break
down. Yeah.
Right.
So he didn't really say that, but I thought that was an interesting point that he was talking about. Like you're saying, everybody coming from small towns and not really having a whole lot, going on in their lives, not a lot of options per se. But the rest of the cast, I mean, you mentioned the principals and also Forrest Whitaker, Adrian playing Big Harold. Kevin Dillon is in it as the really ruthless and kind of crazy bunny. John C. McGinley as the crestfallen O'Neill.
Hey, O'Neill, take a break. Can't be an asshole all the time.
He wasn't in it much, but Johnny Depp as Lerner. And also, this is what I really loved was Tony Todd as Warren. Candyman, yo, Candyman. And even he was giving me The Rock vibes. I want the money. I came here for the money. I was all over that, yo. I was like, I just wanted him to say it, yo. I almost felt like I wanted that to be the character from The Rock, and he survived and got back, and then he hooked up with Ed Harris, and he's like, I'm here for the money, man. I got fucked up in Nam. I was absolutely waiting for it, just waiting for it, and he never did. He never gave it. Keith David as King. And then also, and I kept wondering, I'm watching the movie, I'm like, who is this Puff Daddy looking dude that I recognize? And then I realized that it was Corey Glover, the lead singer of In Living Color. And I was like, God damn,
they had everybody.
Yeah. But turns out he was
too, man.
Oh no, he was excellent. And I understand that he was an aspiring actor.
Right.
When Vernon Reid met him and then invited him to join the band, and everything took off from there. That might be his only acting role. But
maybe.
But I will say this, man, about the cast. One of the things I really liked was I do think that there was a sense of camaraderie amongst them.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a particularly well-known issue that a black journalist took with how the black soldiers were characterized, but that's how it would have been back then, at least from what I can tell. We're gonna be with them, and we all out here together, so we can call them white boys and crackers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then we're gonna go over here and we're gonna be by ourselves, and we're gonna talk about how this is affecting us and how we feel like we're over here fighting essentially a quote white man's war over here, shooting at Asian people and killing Asian people. When we get back home, we're going to be shown even less respect than they will when they get back.
Mm-hmm.
For other reasons than that. So I thought that was great, and I wanted to make note too. One of the things that maybe I don't know if we're going to get to some of the artistic choices that Stone made as a director in terms of shooting, but I thought that it was really powerful was the that opening sequence where you see the plane land and the doors open.
Yes, yo.
And the young soldiers come off, and Charlie Sheen is amongst them as Chris Taylor, and they looked like Boy Scouts.
Yes. Teenagers, fresh out of high school, man.
Literally, absolutely.
Yeah.
They looked like Boy Scouts, and I was just like, Jesus, So that really stuck with me. So, and I'll cap it off by saying, as far as the cast is concerned. At first, when I started doing a little bit of reading, because I just wanted to kind of get a sense of where everybody's careers were at the time, nobody had done too much of anything prior to this. Keith David had done 2 films, one of which was The Thing.
Okay.
Right.
Prior to this, Charlie Sheen was this same year Ferris Bueller came out, so he's in that. As the guy in the police station, but he'd done like some small things before that. Willem Dafoe hadn't done much. Is it Mark Moses who played the lieutenant?
That's right.
Is that his name? This was his first feature film.
Oh wow!
Really?
This is his first feature film. Johnny Depp hadn't done hardly anything. Tony Todd had done maybe 2 things. Corey Glover, again, I think this was his first and only role that I could tell. And John C. McGinley hadn't done much. And then it made sense to me that if you're going to hire young actors to play young soldiers, they would be young in life and young in their tenure as actors too, and just wouldn't have much of a resume to speak of at that point. But I don't think they were any worse for it at all. I think they all brought game and really did the damn thing. So
yeah, and also the thing to note is like, I'm glad you brought that up about them coming off in that very opening scene, with them stepping off the back of the C-130, and you see, the stuff that I've read just in other books, the first thing that hits you when you step off the plane in Vietnam that every veteran says is it's the smell and the heat and the mud and the dust. That's exactly what is portrayed here in that opening scene. Yep. And I thought it was very, very telling too that, Taylor, as he's walking, he passes by almost what could be a specter of himself coming back if he survives the tour. That soldier with the very deep hollowed eyes, looking like a shell of himself. Yeah. It's almost like looking at a specter of, damn, is that going to be me if I survive? Yeah. That type of thing. Yeah. And there's a quote to start off the movie, I wish I had written it down, but something like, rejoice in your youth, young man, or something like that. And that's what it is, this youth being put into the meat grinder here. Yeah. And if you make it out, you will forever be
changed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No, you're right, man. Back to that opening sequence where the youth, they're coming off the plane and they're young and strapping, ready to go, straight out of boot camp with no actual military experience, nothing can make them ready for what they're about to experience. And then you see the new guys are coming in, and the dead guys are going on. So the body bags are going on the plane as soon as the new guys are coming off, and they're stepping over them, and the rigor mortis hasn't set in yet, so their bodies are still pliable, and it's just wow. It's like, wow, what the fuck are we getting into here? Yeah. It's like this is no man's war.
Yeah, and and that brings the point too. There's a couple of sequences to where I think the youthfulness of the actors, really help these two scenes. The first one is when they set up the ambush at the beginning, where they go off and they set up in the jungle or whatnot, and it's raining and everything. You kind of have a montage, as Sheen is talking about the grunts, and you see like all the newest recruits, the sergeants are having to go around to them and say, pop the claymore like this. Make sure you have this. Don't fall asleep. Things like that. You know what I'm saying? And you see, like, Taylor, he wakes up in the middle of the night. Ants are biting at him. He even has, like, I don't even know if they were real, but he has, like, welts from, like, mosquitoes biting him and everything. I was like, oh, the detail in this was, oh, man. Yeah. It really set you there. So he puts the towel over his head to cover himself from all this stuff. Yeah. He opens it up a bit. And he sees, like, a bush. He thinks, then a bush moves and waves. Oh man, the lighting on that, and at first you can see Sheen kind of like, am I asleep? Am I dreaming?
Do I have some kind of jungle fever, or is this some kind of a fever dream?
Right.
Exactly. So he's looking around like, does anybody else see this? Everybody else is knocked out. Right. Junior was supposed to be on point. Yes. Looking. He was supposed to be on watch. He's asleep. And everything else is out of Taylor's reach. The M16s, the claymores, the grenades. So he's just stuck there with this towel on his head. And North Vietnamese are walking ever closer. And just the tension of the music ramping up. And they're almost on him. And you just see like this scared visage just sitting there in the bush, just like, oh my God. Right. And then somebody has a presence of mind to blow the claymores and then, ward off the North Vietnamese. Right. You know what I'm saying? And it happens that suddenly. That's the other thing that I liked about Stone's directing in this, because combat, from what I've read, happens very suddenly. Oh, yeah. It could be all peaceful 1 second, and then that same second, so a sniper will shoot or something else will pop off, and then you're in it. And the firefight's over very quickly. It's nothing protracted like, you would see in a lot of Hollywood films.
Oh, yeah.
Like where it goes on and on and on.
Right.
No, most of the time contact usually would be like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
Like they melt it back into the jungle.
As it relates to that, I was watching a documentary, and they were mentioning that, the North Vietnamese, their tactic would typically be, we're going to attack, we're going to fight for 15 minutes or so, and then we're going to slip away into the jungles and into the tunnels. So it would be quick spurts like that. And if you recall back to Ho Chi Minh, when he was talking about the war and how to defeat a larger enemy, he says, if a tiger is fighting an elephant, he says, yes, the elephant can sit on the tiger and crush it. But if the tiger keeps moving, the elephant can't sit on him. And if the tiger jumps on his back and claws him enough times, the elephant will bleed to death. And so he was actually talking about, I think, France at the time when they were fighting with France. But
That's right.
It's that same idea of, it's guerrilla tactics. If you're smaller, okay, you're faster, you're quicker, you're more agile. If your opponent is bigger, they're slower, they're more lumbersome, and so you use your weaknesses, supposed weaknesses as your strengths. So.
Exactly. And the other scene that I was going to mention too, what was going to be, the village itself, the village scene, but the precursor to that, that kind of had a double meaning for me, so to speak, was when they find the bunker complex, you know what I'm saying, and there's a booby trap there set by the North Vietnamese, and it kills two of Barnes' squad, and you see Barnes just kind of like, he's not overly emotional, but those were the guys that were in his hooch.
Right.
That's part of his squad.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it hit him hard.
Right.
And so he's already on edge about that. And then they had already sent Taylor and this other brother named Manny, out to, watch on the perimeter.
Right.
Taylor came back, but Manny didn't. Yeah.
Manny doing the curls with a do-rag
on. Oh, man. But yeah, man. And then when they finally find Manny, they find him. And when they find him, I don't know about you guys, but it kind of put me in the sense of when you see like those old photos of like lynchings.
Yeah.
Here in America.
Yeah.
Back in like, the late 1800s, definitely the early 1900s.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then for the camera to kind of pan across everyone's faces, both white and black, and it ends up on Barnes. Them motherfuckers.
Right.
You just know it's going to end poorly.
Yeah.
You just know.
Right.
He has nothing but vengeance on his mind.
Right.
And even the narration by Sheen was saying, this village that might have stood for 1,000 years had no idea we were coming that day. And I like how Stone put in it, like, he was saying that Barnes was kind of like the Captain Ahab, he was the center of their rage, you know what I'm saying, making that allusion to, Captain Ahab and Moby Dick. And I thought once they get into the village and what happens there, that's when the performances of that cast really coalesced, especially the youthful guys. You know what I'm saying? Like Kevin Dillon as Bunny. Oh my God.
I want to kick the shit out of him, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it really felt like, because especially like there were a couple of guys there, like Southern boys, like what was it? Somebody was like, like exactly, like, man, let's just shoot a whole village. Yeah, damn right he does. Damn right he does.
Right.
Shut the hell up.
Yeah.
Just ready.
Are you smiling? What are you smiling at? And dude was like he's mentally handicapped. You could tell.
He really is. Yeah, like he really was.
It's like, man, come on, man, leave this guy alone, man. And she just went off, man. He went unhinged and just started, like you think it's funny? You want to dance? Dance.
What's the matter with you? I wasn't gonna hurt you. Looked like I was gonna fucking hurt you. Why didn't you listen to me, huh? Why? Why didn't you fucking listen to me? Fucking stupid! You stupid asshole! Get the fuck up here! Come here, motherfucker! Why are you smiling? Huh? Why the fuck didn't you listen to me?
Do him, man. Do him.
What are you smiling at, huh? You want something to smile at, huh? You want something to smile at? Motherfucker!
You know?
But see, that's the thing. He is as scared as he is.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And just the way Sheen just broke down. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to hold on to the humanity, but man, it's he can't. Oh man! And then Bundy was like, "You see, that's how they laugh at you. He's laughing at you.
Right.
You know, and he even try to drag Bundy away.
Shit.
Come on, Bun. Yeah, come on, Bun. Let's get out of here. Nobody saw anything. O'Neal.
Right.
And Buddy's acting like he started to turn away, and then bam, smacks him, and just terrible. And to see Sheen's reaction too, like he's just breaking down. It's like you ain't have to do that, man.
Right.
You know,
you see those ketchup spurts jumping up on everybody's face and helmet.
Yeah, man. Oh, man.
Yeah, it was awful.
Just, Buddy talking about Mace. See your head come open, man?
The thing that really bothered me more than anything else in that particular instance, and all of it was horrible, you know, the treatment of, you know, the people living in the village, you know, shooting their pig, you know, which might have been, you know, a source of food, and also, you know, a way for them to make money, you know, maybe selling some of the pig meat, the pork.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Burning down the huts, you know, the killing of that young kid. But the thing that really bothered me more than anything else was the mother crying and saying, no, please, leave him alone. No. And then they still bash his head in, and then she's just laying in the corner like just defeated.
Shocked. Yeah.
And then later on, like you said, you know, when they get outside and you see, you know, Bob Barnes starting to really become unhinged and feeling like, okay, everybody is here is an obstacle for me completing my mission, including women, children. And so he shoots that mom. And then when she falls to the ground, and then the little girls, no. It's just like, oh my God, you awful motherfuckers.
Yeah.
It was,
and then he puts the gun to her head. And you know, he's VC. It's just so intense. Oh my God.
Man, one of the things I didn't quite get in that moment, dude, I don't understand, you know, the depth of what Lerner's character was about Johnny Depp. Like, how did he speak Vietnamese?
Well, he's an interpreter. Like he has, you have someone in the squad that can speak the language when they're going around to these villages on patrol.
It's the same like in World War II, where they'd have someone who could speak French or Italian or German.
Right.
So that way, if you capture somebody, or if you're moving amongst, you know, different groups or whatever, you can still communicate.
Right. I guess
exactly.
I guess for me it's kind of a strange thing, man. Like if you can talk to him, you can reason with him. You can reason with him. There's no need for a war. And I guess that's my naive way of looking at things. I feel as though like, oh, wow, Johnny, if he really speaks this and he's telling, like, obviously he's an American soldier and he's trying to get the best intel for his people, but at the same time, it's like he can let them know, like, hey man, this they're not doing anything. This is a real thing. This is what they say they're doing is what they're actually doing. Because I can interpret that for you. Take my word for it. They're not your enemy. But they didn't want to hear that because they're so angry. They need a vindication for what's happened to them earlier, you know, and they're just going to take out anybody they possibly can, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and I thought this was the scene too that goes back to like that literary illusion, you know, of, you know, Barnes as Captain Ahab. I also thought in a way this is kind of like Mutiny on the Bounty almost. Yeah, Barnes is like Captain Bligh, and then you got Elias. Once he comes to the camp, he's like the Fletcher Christian almost.
Right.
And with Elias, they really play upon that Jesus reference too. Like, you know, you notice the way when, you know, Elias comes in and kind of stops everything for us. Things like Barnes,
right?
And the villagers part kind of like before him as he's walking through them to get to Barnes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then later on, after they have that tete-a-tete back in base camp, Barnes calls Elias a water walker. You know, he's nothing but a water walker. You know, that type of thing. And you even see earlier in the film, in the opening scenes, Elias is walking through the jungle with the M60 across his shoulders like a cross. So the illusions are there.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
That's pretty good.
Which makes that culmination in that battle that Dwight was mentioning earlier. This on the poster, the outstretched arms and everything. It culminates in that, you know. But also, Elias's character as well, played by Willem Dafoe, very good.
Excellent.
Very good.
Can I say one thing in pure humor?
Sure.
All of Willem Dafoe's, his serious scenes and even the emotional ones prior to, that final where he ends up being killed.
Mm-hmm.
All of that was great. Even the kind of almost Western like showdown between he and Barnes in the jungle where they see each other, and he smiles because he thinks, okay, Barnes came back to get him.
Yeah, that's my boy.
And then Barnes like, nah, ba ba ba.
Nah.
And then when the helicopter's taking off, that's when you see him running through the jungle. He's being chased by the Viet Cong.
Yeah, man.
But I thought the whole arms, that was some crazy overacting, wasn't it? I mean, it was just like, I just thought it was like even slowed down, which usually adds a certain amount of drama or impact. I was just like,
right,
all right, so okay. Anyway, I maybe I'm the only one. But
no. I mean, it does. I mean, it does seem very, very stage actory ish. Like to prove a point of how bad you're taking the hit. You would do that like as a stage actor in plays, like you would over dramatize everything. So I can see what you're saying, but it did have that feeling of, okay, this is the last good man in Vietnam that's just not doesn't want to be on his own volition, but he's doing the best he can to maintain his humanity.
And that's a very good point, D. That's a very good point. That after that, pretty much everybody's got some dirt on them, some more than others.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I was kind of uncomfortable when Sheen was getting his first hit, and he puts that gun to his mouth. He's like, "Go put your mouth on it." And he blows the smoke into his mouth, and it's like, okay, that's not too cool. But go ahead.
That's a true shotgun. Hey, I do want to say one other thing as it relates to iconic images. Obviously, Willem Dafoe with arms outstretched is from the poster, and that is, probably the iconic image alongside the profile shot of Sheen with his helmet on, and it says, bury me upside down so, the world can kiss my ass.
Kiss my ass, yeah.
But I thought one other shot that Stone and his cinematographer chose, I thought was beautiful, was early in the film when they're on kind of it was either a night or like a dusk patrol, and they're walking, and you see them all in silhouette, in shadow and silhouette, and then you see the lightning strike behind them. It was like, oh wow, that was some Alex Toe shit right there. That was some
Susanna, don't you cry for me.
Yeah, It was just really a beautiful and powerful shot. But what were you gonna say, Jim? I'm sorry.
It's funny because that scene there that you're talking about, it was great except for that lightning. That lightning looked fake as hell to me, dude.
Oh yeah. It was absolutely manufactured.
I was like, what the hell? Like a little skinny lightning bolt for some little.
Well, but you notice they didn't stay on it for very long. It wasn't like the lightning was just crackling in the back. It was just like one time and then we're out.
Pop, pop. Yep. They didn't slow down on it. But man, as far as like effects and stuff goes, man, and like you said, some of those long scenes in the film, or filmed by the DP. I also like, man, the sound effects. Like there's certain points where it's like there's this like constant machine hiss in the background, man. It was like wow, it was irritating. There was like this. I was like, was this somebody's? And
it's supposed to be,
yeah, man. It's like it really the psychological effect of that was haunting, man.
Yeah, and I thought it was a good choice as well that the way they mixed the sound too, like the effects were louder than the dialogue when they were in the midst of the battle, in the midst of combat. Yeah. That's how it would sound. Yeah. And they're having to yell over the din of combat. Yeah. It's like
adjustment follows. Grid. You ignorant asshole! What the fuck coordinates you given? You waste a lot of people up there with your fucked up fire mission. You know that? You know that? Ah, shit. Red leg, Ripper Bravo 2.
Put your man over there. That type of thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I thought that was very well done. and I guess winding it down to like the final act, of the movie, that final scene where the North Vietnamese are making their attack on that base camp, and I thought that scene just really, really captured, the eeriness of the jungle at night, and almost you sense that, did Taylor kind of get a sixth sense, a sense like they're out there, but everyone probably felt that way being on edge. Everything is heightened, you know what I'm saying? And just feeling like, I know they're out there. But when that first bunker, that first listening post in the jungle gets hit, and the guy runs back to Taylor, to Taylor's foxholes, like, they're everywhere. They're all out there. They're all coming after me. Ah!
Game over, man. Game over.
Wasn't that the lieutenant?
Nuh-uh,
that was somebody else.
Okay.
The lieutenant was actually back in the camp.
Okay.
Yeah, deeper back in the camp.
Okay.
But, and then Corey Glover's like, come on, man. Come on, Taylor, let's DD. Nah, man, I'm staying out here.
Right.
And they fight him off.
Yeah.
And you get Taylor, he just comes to a point where it's like, look, I am dead already.
Right.
Let me just get out of this foxhole and I'm going to die like standing up.
Yeah.
And he just goes out and goes a wild man.
Yeah, man.
And then Corey Glover's like, me too.
Right.
And it's fucking beautiful. Like like Tom Cruise in Taps. Oh shit, it's beautiful. It's fucking beautiful.
Oh God.
That's what I thought of. I was like, that's how Tom Cruise went out in Taps.
That's crazy.
Shooting that M60. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, man. And then going to the final part, the showdown between Barnes and Taylor. Oh my God. You talk about like shots that haunt. That shot where Barnes is over Taylor, get ready to hit him with that shovel, that spade.
Yep.
And Taylor's like, no! And the airstrike is coming in from the plane. And you see the fire in Barnes' eyes like, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And everything, the airstrike hits, everything just goes white.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And that wasn't napalm either, because napalm the fire, it would have burned all their asses up.
Yeah.
Like, they would have to asunder.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, Dale Dye played the commander back in camp. And so he said, drop it on my position. It's my decision.
Right.
It's a beautiful fucking war.
Yeah.
Also,
I was just going to say, for some reason, I didn't know who he was, but I knew he wasn't an actor.
Okay.
Like, I knew there was something authentic about him. You know what I mean? In the same way with the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket, who wasn't an actor at first. He was the consultant. And then they were like, this guy's got character, and he's got an odd look about him. And then they just let him play the part, and it worked. And he actually had a career as a working actor, pretty much playing that same character over and over again.
What about the cameo of said director, man?
Oh, yeah.
That was great.
Like that suicide dude right in there. hey, send him to my...
That was awesome, man.
I loved after they dropped, after they basically lit him up, so, just dumped everything. And Charlie Sheen wakes up, and again, you're reminded that this is a place, and that people live in this place, and that animals live in this place, because he sees that deer. And so you're reminded, okay, there's real life in here, other than you human beings, shooting and blowing each other the hell up. There's real life in here. So I thought that was an interesting touch. It was like, wow, okay, he sees the deer. And and then, like you said, when he gets up and he grabs the gun, and you see piles of bodies everywhere. Most of them dead, some of them not, and the ones who aren't, they're kind of crawling and trying to move. And then he sees Barnes crawling, and Barnes like, "Hey, boy, go get a medic. Go get me a medic." And Charlie Sheen gives him that look, and he's like,
"I got your medicine right here."
Right. He said, "Do it. Do it." And it just lit.
That's it. That's it. The final four, yo. I ain't
just got his ass,
the final four.
It's the final countdown.
But what's interesting about that? What's interesting about that, Swizz, is that Stone was actually conflicted about should he have Taylor shoot Barnes. So he actually did shoot 2 endings.
Okay.
And even more to the point, Stone said in that memoir, he said even Martin Sheen contacted him and was like, Oliver, don't let the boy shoot Barnes. Don't let him shoot Barnes.
Really?
Yeah. Even Martin Sheen was like, don't let the boy shoot Barnes. Don't let him do it. And Stone was like, I wavered on it, but I went with what felt right.
Right.
So I went with the ending of him shooting Barnes.
Right.
You know, because it kind of brought closure to everything. And really, Barnes' character is the type to where he had, Francesco Quinn had said he's been shot 7 times.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that tell you something about him?
Yeah.
You know,
thought he was
the only thing that can kill Barnes is Barnes.
Right. and it did.
You know?
It did kill his ass. His attitude killed his ass. You know?
Yeah.
So that's what's up.
Yeah.
I think too. Also, as poetry and storytelling goes, he was so terrible up into that point. He couldn't live. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's a point for the audience where somebody is just so much of a son of a bitch. We're not going to be satisfied if he's getting on the chopper and going back to the hospital and he's going to be fine, or they all lift their hands and yay, we survived. No. It just wouldn't have been satisfying at all for the audience. I mean, he had to go. Maybe not at Charlie Sheen's hand, but he had to go. He definitely had to go. I wanted to ask you guys this. So, from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, one of the things that I noticed is the Platoon and Charlie Sheen as Chris Taylor, he's kind of our protagonist. And so, even though none of them are great, none of them are really, some of them aren't even really good. They're just, some of them are just okay, but I mean, they're a pretty messed up bunch. But we spend most of our time with them throughout the course of the movie. We never see much at all from the vantage point of the North Vietnamese soldiers. We don't spend any time with the Vietnamese except when we get to the village scene. And that's where we get a little bit of humanity. That's where we get a little bit of, fathers and mothers and human beings and what this war is really, the toll that it's having on the, quote, collateral damage. As it is. But I thought that because, even though we're with them, I didn't like being with them. But, once you're with them for so long, that's the storyline that you kind of follow. It's like, okay, I got to find out what happens to Barnes. I got to ultimately find out what oh, wait a minute, Elias is still alive? Oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to, and like Dee pointed out, I guess Elias was really the last and only good man, as far as this goes. And then we see Sheen at the end when he does finally shoot Barnes, that, like you said, that closure, Adrian, where he has become that which, he didn't think he was. And it actually is probably the birth of the tagline for the movie, where it says that the first casualty of war is innocence. So, the loss of innocence, the loss of thinking, this could be an adventure and that this wouldn't be the most fucked up experience of your life, which it probably was. But anyway, that wasn't really a question, but I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, man.
No. Yeah.
I felt it was interesting as far as Barnes' character goes, that he was the soldier. Like he said, I am this war. I am this war, and you can't beat me.
Yeah, I am reality.
Yeah, exactly. I am reality. And thanks, Adrian. And he comes in. And he's like, yeah, anybody, any punks want to try me? You want to try me? And of course, Taylor feels like he has a shot. And he's like, I'm drunk as hell right now. You can take me on. The 6 of you here. Nobody knows any difference. But this goes to show the amount of time he spent in the bush and the skills he became equipped with. No matter how fucking drunk he was still ready to perform at his highest possible peak level without a bullet in him. And he did it. He put him down in no time, man. It was like, and he would have killed him. He could have killed him simply.
My father was in the Army for 4 years, and we talked about that scene in Stripes where the drill sergeant takes Bill Murray in the back and says, hey, look, you want to take a shot at me? And he says, yeah, I want to take a shot at you. And Bill Murray tries to punch the drill sergeant. Drill sergeant's probably, twice his age. Lays his ass out. And my father said, that's pretty much how most of those guys were. Didn't matter if they're big, didn't matter if they're small.
Yeah.
Look, there is an economy of movement that they will employ on your ass, and it will be over. Yeah. So don't play, and like you said, even drunk, don't play. I will dismantle you, motherfuckers.
Yeah,
you will leave here looking like you were in a bloody ass fight.
Yeah.
You leave here looking like me, as in bars.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm a warrior. I'm a seasoned warrior. You're playing with this. I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. You know.
Yeah. Hey, I had a couple things I wanted to bring up. Just a couple of tidbits, if you got just a couple quick minutes.
Sure. Go for it, man.
I thought Tom Berenger's Southern accent was awful. I thought it was just awful. I was just like, stop, Tom Berenger. And whatever
it's the veracity of it. He came and went.
His performance was good, but his accent was like, ugh. But most people's Southern accents, as someone who lives in the South, most people's Southern accents are like terrible, when I hear them. And same thing with John C. McGinley. Whatever that was he was supposed to be doing, I was like, John, stop it, bruh. Stop it.
Don't do it.
Hey, Bob.
The other thing I was going to say, okay, after the final battle and the backup shows up, and they're cleaning up dead bodies. Why the brothers got to be the ones cleaning up all the dead bodies and dump all the dead bodies? There's brothers everywhere. That's their only duty. That's the only goal is to clean up, dead soldiers. My God, I was like,
it's fucked up.
Okay, that's not cool.
Right.
What was the other thing I was going to mention? The two quotes that I liked in the movie was King. Well, the first was Charlie Sheen's voiceover where he says, "I felt like a child born of these two fathers." Talking about Elias and then talking about Barnes. But then when he's talking with King later on, who I think he had a genuine good rapport with King, when King says, "Keep your pecker hard, your powder dry, and the worm will turn."
That was a great line, man. That was a great line, man.
Yeah, man. King was that grounding for him, And I thought it was fitting as well that King left. I'm glad King wasn't there to get killed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's my point earlier,
And I don't want, and also, I didn't feel like in this instance, I know people may look at King as kind of like being the quote unquote magical Negro, that we might see in other movies, but not in this instance. No. I don't perceive him in this instance as that.
No, because, what I'm saying? But to your point, man, because there were too many possibilities. Forrest Whitaker was there. Easily could have took that role home. There were several contenders for that position. So.
Well, the other thing that removes King from being the magical Negro is he had agency.
Right.
He had his own story going on within the movie. He constantly talked about wanting to get out of there, and like in other words, he had agency as a person. He wasn't just there to dispel, good advice and to rain, platitudes and lessons in life to make Chris Taylor great. Right. He talked about his own life and his own intuitions and his own desires. So he had agency as a person. I don't think you get that from like a Bagger Vance kind of a character, or from some of the other typical magical Negroes. At least not to me.
Right. Good point.
Yeah, definitely.
No, it's just a side note, man. I mean, when it came to the different camps, Camp Elias or Camp Barnes, I can see the validity in both sides. Like for me, I don't think I would have been there smoking dope. You know what I'm saying? That would have been my thing. I might have been over another side, chilling out, reading a book. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have been dancing with a bunch of dudes close like that, dude. I would have been, somewhere chilling, listening to some bad country music but not on Barnes' side either. I know Barnes is an asshole, but Barnes is also to the point where one of the characters I thought was interesting. Barnes is not a great guy, but he's the one who's going to keep our asses alive over here.
Yeah, they did say that at one point. Yeah.
So that was my thing. So I didn't like his ass, but he served his purpose well.
And I guess the last note I would make too is the soundtrack for the movie.
Right.
You know, and how limited it is. I mean, it's only like a few songs. Like you have known songs like, of course, White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane.
That's my shit, yeah.
Oh man, every time that comes up, I can't help every time that comes on. That's yes.
Yeah, man, it's awesome, man.
Like you feel high listening to that. Like you feel like you're smoking a doobie out there.
Damn, I want to get high.
Oh,
you know, I feel like I want to smoke some weed or drop some acid. Get some heroin.
There's this great mix, man, with White Rabbit and Sushi and the Banshees Peekaboo. It's fantastic, yo. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. You heard it before, Swain? I'm sure you have, man.
No, but it sounds good.
I'm gonna find it. I'll send it to you guys.
Okay, cool. And then you got, you know, Tracks My Tears by Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, you know, which they used a lot, especially in the trailer for Platoon, and just so evocative of the period. You know, because at once it's a catchy song, but the tears really are the tears of going through this experience.
Yeah.
You know, so I thought that was a great choice to overlay that, you know, on the trailer, and also when they're back in camp, you know, partying or whatnot, they're having a good time, but it's almost melancholy too because it's in the midst of this war. It's in the midst of this experience. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Smokey has some lyrics for your days, some songs for your ass back in the day too, man. Like Tears of a Clown, man. Tears of a Clown is a really, really like heartbreaking song, dude. You know, it's like wow, but he sounds so jovial when he sings it. But it's like what does he say?
Yeah, exactly. That's how it sneaks underneath there.
Smiles on my face, just trying to fool the public. Wow. Okay.
Hey man, an interviewer asked Bob Dylan who his favorite poet was, and Bob Dylan said Smokey Robinson.
Wow.
You know, so I mean, you know, as lauded as Dylan is as a songwriter, he like everybody else was extremely impressed with how Smokey could turn a phrase and you know and move you with it. So.
Yeah, for sure. And then you have the theme that everyone knows and probably gained more popularity through the movie itself. You have Samuel Barber's Adagio for Strings. You know, just that classic piece that everyone probably knows now, probably more so thanks to Platoon than anything, you know, at least for our generations, you know what I'm saying? And even the composer, George Delarue, you know, the cue that he has, you know, with those Asian like clacks and drums and so forth, like when they're in the jungle and you hear like those flutes and the woodwinds and everything, I thought that really was evocative of like the mystery and the horror and just the eeriness being out there. Like the part where Elias, you know, takes on that North Vietnamese patrol by himself to turn off the flank or whatnot, and it's just him. And he's skulking through the jungle, and then he breaks into a run through the jungle. You know what I'm saying? The music is just, it's just so good. And then he finally meets up with Barnes, you know, and that showdown.
Across the water, across the swamp,
Yeah, and Elias is just like, But you read it in their eyes. You know, Elias's eyes drop like, oh shit. And Barnes says, I got you.
Right.
I got you. And that's it.
That's it. Game over, motherfucker.
Yeah, man. So yeah, man, I you know just wanted to give some appreciation to Platoon, you know, on its 35th anniversary. If you haven't seen it, it is definitely one of those American cinematic experiences that you should see. You know, it's on the 100 greatest films list from the American Film Institute. You know, and it's just one of the greats. It's one of the movies that I would say is truly an experience. It really, really is. You know, so you should definitely check it out. What do you guys think? It's final thoughts.
Oh, hell yeah! I mean, it's the thing we're now, man, especially now more than ever, in this crazy time we're in with blaming, blaming people for their existence and having no kind of real reason to be doing it, except for the claim that this is what it was. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying in terms of how they're treating the Asian community right now, how they're getting beat up and stuff. Because quote unquote came from China. You fucking orange monster, you. So yeah, I mean that's it's very appropriate at this point in time to see something in defense of marginalized cultures, and it's not really truly that in of itself, but I think it's important to see that there's a history of people that are caught up in situations they can't necessarily get themselves out of. That's my summation.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I mean, I agree with Adrian though. It really is an experience, and oddly enough, like a lot of war films, this one holds up in terms of its viewability 35 years later, partially because there's limited technology out there in the field. If you're a soldier out in the field, I mean, they dress kind of the same. They use a lot of the same weapons. They use a lot of the same communication tools, more advanced now, but soldiers today don't look that much different from soldiers 40 years ago, 50, That's 60 right. years ago. That's so, right. And it's only like you see the haircuts, and you see the moose haircuts, from the 80s, and you see that where you get a sense of it. But other than that, the language that they use and the situations, everything felt realistic. And I agree with Adrian. It really is an experience. It was much more visceral for me now, maybe because I'm getting more sensitive as I get older. It was much more visceral for me to watch it now than it did when I first saw it years ago. And and I was also watching it from the eyes of someone who is a parent and who has children, and someone who has family members who have served, younger family members in addition to my grandfather and my father and my father-in-law. So I was, just felt it in a different way. So yeah, I definitely recommend, even if military themed movies and war movies aren't your thing, this is definitely one that lives up to the hype.
For sure.
Yeah.
That concludes this episode of Sidebar Forever, hosted by Dwight Clark, Swain Hunt, and Adrian Johnson. You can find us online at sidebarforever.com. Any emails or questions can be directed to us at sidebarforever@gmail.com. And also, subscribe to us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.